Welcome to a new little segment we're doing here at Yahoo Fantasy, a little DFS unboxing. What we're doing here is we're taking blind resumes for each of the 3 positions and trying to find the best plays in Yahoo DFS for week 2. I'm gonna literally unbox the players after deciding based on a blind. I have no idea who these players are. I only know a few simple random facts about them and their matchup for week 2. So based on that and based on their value in Yahoo DFS, we're gonna decide who you should put in your lineup for week 2, all right? These are my quarterbacks. I've got quarterback 1, 2, and 3. In quarterback box number 1, this guy's worth $35. He threw for 250 plus yards in 15 games last season. That was the most in the NFL. He completed 69.8% of his passes, nice, at home in the last 8 weeks of last year. And his week 2 opponent allowed 2,094 passing yards in the last 8 weeks of last year, which is of course the second most in the NFL. Now in quarterback box number 2, worth $32, has the second most touchdown passes of 20 plus yards since the 2017 season, has thrown deep balls on just 6.9% of his passes on 3rd and 6 to 9 yards to go. Super nice stats here. And his week 2 opponent allowed 4.1 touchdowns per interception to quarterbacks last year, so a 29-7 touchdown to interception ratio. Quarterback box number 3. This quarterback has thrown 23 touchdown passes when attempting a pass of 20 plus yards since the 2017 season. That's the most among NFL quarterbacks in that span. This quarterback has thrown 3 plus touchdowns in 12 games since 2017. That's, again, most among quarterbacks in the NFL. And their week 2 opponent forced a turnover on just 1.4% of plays last season. That's tied for the second lowest in the NFL. 35, 32, 30. I think I'm gonna go with quarterback number 3, the cheapest of the bunch, and seems to have a juicy matchup and has thrown a lot of touchdowns since the 2017 season. You can't go a blind resume that is pretty long. So quarterback number 3. My $30 quarterback is, oh God. It's Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson is playing the Steelers in week 2, which, I mean, that's fine. Like, I think that game could get pretty high scoring, especially with the Steelers playing at home. Didn't really think I'd be coming into week 2 playing Russell Wilson as my DFS quarterback. That's fine. All right, now moving on to our running back group. We've got running back box number 2, 1. So in running back box number 1, I have a $26 running back. In running back box number 2, I have a $28 running back. And in number 3, $30. Let's go. Let's get started here. So running back box number 1, $26. They rushed for 100 yards or more in a game 4 times last season. Has 5.7 yards per carry on first down since the 2017 season. And their opponent in week 2 allowed just 6 rushing touchdowns in the red zone last season. So tough matchup because that's tied for the 3rd fewest in the NFL. Running back box number 2, we've got a $28 running back. They rushed for 10 or more yards on 20% of their carries in the last 8 weeks of last year. Had 3.1 yards after contact per carry in the last 8 weeks of last season as well. So making the chains move, making guys miss, and their opponent in week 2 allowed 1.1 yards after contact per carry in the last 8 weeks of last year too. But now let's go to running back number 3, $30 for this running back here. They had over 20 touches in week 1. They averaged 5.6 yards per carry in the first half since last season. And their opponent allowed 8.8 yards after catch to running backs last season. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This one, the 20 touches, over 20 touches in week 1 is good. I like that opportunity there. I think ultimately we're gonna go with the most expensive one. All right, my $30 running back is, yes, it's Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook crushed it in week 1. The Vikings ran on 77.5% of their plays in week 1. They want to base the offense around Dalvin Cook. I love that I picked this guy. I don't even care who are in the other 2 boxes. I made the right choice. Sometimes, kids, you gotta pay up for what you want. All right, now I have my second group of running backs here. Running back number 1, running back number 2, and number 3. So in box number 1, I have a $22 running back, has gained 689 yards after the catch last season. Okay, so good after catch threat. Has 17 receptions in the red zone since last season, and their opponents have allowed 36 rushing touchdowns to running backs since the 2017 season. That's tied for 3rd most in the NFL. Now, this running back is worth $23. He's one of 5 running backs to rush for 100+ yards in week 1. He has 20 rushing touchdowns since the 2017 season, and their week 2 opponent has allowed 27 rushing touchdowns since the 2017 season. Now, let's go to running back number 3, worth $21. This player had 27 rush attempts in the red zone in the last 8 weeks of last year, has 9 rushing touchdowns in the red zone last season. Opponent allowed 7 touchdowns. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna pick that one. You know what? I'm gonna go with I'm gonna save $1 here. I'm gonna go with this receiving running back here, who has 17 receptions in the red zone last season. Let's go ahead and open him up. All right, my running back pick here. James White. Had a feeling it was gonna be James White. We know that the Dolphins suck. They're playing the Dolphins in week 2, so I'm not too disappointed with my pick here. All right, now I'm moving on to my wide receiver group here. I've got wide receiver box 1, wide receiver box 2, and of course, number 3. In box number 1, they finished in the top 6 in Yahoo Fantasy wide receivers every year, except his rookie season, has collected 121 career rushing yards. Their week 2 opponent had the 30th worst passing defense in the NFL in 2018. Here, has never attracted more than 75 targets in his career, has averaged over 10 yards per reception in each of the last 4 seasons, and their week 2 opponent collected 2 safeties last season. Interesting. And my last box here has yet to play a full 16-game season, has 6 5-catch games in his career. None of that sounds inspiring, but their week 2 opponent allowed 30 passing touchdowns in 2018. Okay, what do we think here? Do I go with the value guy that's got a good matchup but is a little unproven, or do I go with the expensive player who has a big history of production? I'm gonna take this guy that's got the good matchup. Oh, wow, okay. I was actually definitely not expecting that. It's Cooper Kupp. I dig this pick a lot, actually. We have Cooper Kupp playing the Saints in week 2 in LA. I know that the Rams offense was kind of stifled, but I think that Panthers defense is pretty underrated from a pass defense perspective. So I actually feel really good about getting Cooper Kupp. All right, I've got my second group of wide receivers here. Wide receiver box number 1, number 2, and number 3. So, box number 1, I have a wide receiver that scored 20 fantasy points in week 1, has induced over 100 targets 4 times in his career. Very nice use of induced. And their week 2 opponent's defense scored just 6.1 fantasy points a game in 2019. Wide receiver number 2 has scored at least 2 touchdowns in every season of his career, averaged over 9 half PPR fantasy points a game in 2018, so solid floor. And their week 2 opponent is 15-9 all time in the playoffs. I don't care about their playoff record. Okay, my last wide receiver here has a 39.6 career quarterback rating. Why do I care about their quarterback rating? Has surpassed 1,000 receiving yards just once in his entire career. And their week 2 opponent's defense collected 21 interceptions last year. Okay, I went cheap with my first wide receiver pick, so I'm gonna go a little bit more expensive here on my second one. So let's see who's inside. See, I had this one stabbed the whole time. I knew it. I knew I was gonna do that. All right, my wide receiver is... oh, very nice. Keenan Allen of the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, all right. I can dig this one. Keenan Allen is really good. Also, he was awesome last week. And by the way, yeah, okay, so they're playing the Lions. I think the Lions pass rush could kind of get to Phillip Rivers behind that really bad offensive line, but you know who's the short area wide receiver on the team? It's Keenan Allen. All right, time to pick a tight end. Got tight end box number 1, tight end box number 2, and tight end box number 3. In box number 1, this tight end averaged 6.3 targets a game in last year. That's pretty good, solid opportunity for a tight end. They failed to reach at least 20 yards receiving just once last season. Their week 2 opponent allowed tight ends to catch just 58 balls in 2018. So solid tight end defense that they've got going on there. Tight end box number 2. This player averaged over 10 yards per reception each of the last 4 seasons. Only had triple-digit receiving yards in 1 game in 2018. Their opponent this week has the 12th best defense in Yahoo Fantasy. Interesting. Okay, I've got my third box here. They averaged less than 20 yards a game in 2014. Gross. They failed to score a touchdown in 2015. Super gross. Their week 2 opponent scored 1 defensive touchdown last season. Nothing about that resume seems appealing. I definitely like this one, the guy who averaged 10 yards per catch each of the last 4 seasons. That sounds sexy. Let's open this one up. And my tight end pick is, it's Eric Ebron. Definitely would rather have not picked Eric Ebron as my tight end. You can kind of spin this 2 different directions, right? Like on the one hand, the Colts offense did move the ball pretty well against the Chargers. I was impressed with what Jacoby Brissett was able to do and the way Marlon Mack ran the ball, so that's nice to see, but it was pretty much a straight even timeshare between Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle at the tight end position, pretty much just gonna cannibalize each other's opportunity in fantasy, so not feeling great about my pick here. All right, so that's my daily fantasy lineup for week 2 based on my blind resume unboxing. I've got Russell Wilson at quarterback. I have Dalvin Cook at running back, very nice. I have James White as my RB2. I have Keenan Allen as my wide receiver 1, love that. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 2, pretty solid against the Saints. I bet he gets into the end zone. And I have Eric Ebron at tight end, which is not great. Okay, so that's my blind resume daily fantasy lineup. I can fill in the rest of my spots here. What do you guys think? Do you like the players that I picked? Do you think I could have done better? Remember, it's a blind resume, so don't be too hard, but comment below. Let me know what you guys think about the lineup that I've constructed, and let me know who you're playing in week 2 on Yahoo DFS. Good luck, and I hope you don't end up with Eric Ebron as your tight end.